Hello and welcome to the Moodle training playground for Glendale Career College. This video will show you how to set the proper configuration for a quiz if you don't want your students to see the questions once they've taken the quiz, yet you still want them to access their grades and also some best practices, and also to ensure that your quiz or exam is weighted properly according to the syllabi and the gradebook, which should match. So let's go through the quiz settings and let's add a quiz. Well, first, make sure that you have editing on Moodle. So if it isn't on, just click the editing on button. Then you can proceed to a topic within your Moodle course and add the quiz wherever you wish. For the purpose of this video, we're going to add it to this topic here at the top. Click on Add Activity or Resource. You will get the Activities and Resource chooser. Make sure you've selected Quiz. Click Add. Make sure you give your quiz a name. This could be a final exam, a midterm, it could be a semester exam, a practice quiz, whatever it is you choose. In this case, we're going to choose exam. Once you've given your exam or quiz a name, you can add a description to remind yourself of what you've created. You can choose to display the description on the page. Sometimes you may want to add instructions here for the quiz, or for example, if you're grading on a curve, you might want to come back in here and put the curve grading scale there, or on a separate label. But whatever you write here, it's not required. It doesn't have a red asterisk. You can actually skip it, and we will do that. Here's where you would decide whether or not you want the description that you used here to be displayed on the page. The next setting on a quiz that we're going to explore is the timing. It's a best practice to select appropriate timing for your quiz so that Moodle will make the quiz available during a time window. Moodle will automatically open the quiz and then close the quiz. That means that it will only be available to be clicked through during that time frame. For example, if you want to give a quiz, you must, on a certain date and time, enable both the open and close quiz windows. This is a much better practice than hiding your quizzes. You want to tell Moodle which date by choosing the day of the month that you want to give the quiz, the month that you want to give the quiz on, the year, and the time. Let's say we want to give this quiz at, and it's a 24-hour clock, so at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the dot, because our class will, but we won't start the quiz until 2 o'clock. So no one can click through until 2 o'clock. The quiz that I'm going to configure here for purposes of demonstration, I plan on giving a 60-question quiz for which I will allow 60 minutes. Therefore, I will close the quiz at 3 o'clock. Which is 1500 hours in military time. I will additionally ensure that the quiz has a time limit of 60 minutes. 1 minute per question for multiple choice quizzes is ample, and it also prevents your students from the temptation of surfing away from the web page or looking on a phone or trying to look at notes that they've brought in, so it discourages dishonest behavior because of the time limit. The next setting in the timing area that you want to make sure you choose is that all attempts that are open at the time when the window closes and the time limit expires will be submitted automatically. So make sure that setting is there. For your traditional testing situation, you do not want to set a grace period. People need to take the time for on-ground delivery. They need to take the time. They need to take the quiz at the time that it was planned by you. And you can always change these settings even once the quiz is defined and questions have been added. However, you cannot change them once the first person has taken the quiz. The next setting besides timing that you want to take care of is the grade setting. This is very important. This is where you will tell the Moodle platform where you want this particular quiz to be weighted. And the gradebook should be set up according to syllabi. In this sample course, the course has an exams weight category, a final exam category, a homework category, a quiz, and a research assignment. All of these would be worth a different percentage of the total grade in the course. For example, this is a quiz, and in this course, in the way the gradebook is set up, quizzes are worth 30%. So I want this particular testing situation to go under the quiz grade category. I want to make sure I change this to just one attempt, because we do not in academic settings allow them to attempt the exam more than once for regular testing situations, because these aren't practice quizzes or certification preparation quizzes, which they do have their use, but for regular academic testing situations, we should set it at attempts allowed 1. So again, the grade category allows you to tell Moodle which category in the gradebook this activity belongs in, and that you were only allowing one attempt. Under layout, you should, as a best practice, always click on Show More. Make sure you put in a new page every question for your exam, so there's only one question on the screen. This is helpful also for testing security, because if you have one question on the screen at a time and we are shuffling questions, which you'll see in a little bit under question behavior, the person next to you will not have the same question on their screen, and there's only one question at a time. So it helps discourage academic dishonesty. The navigation method being free is a best practice for your regular testing situation. Question behavior, shuffle within questions. You want to turn this off. There are some questions that might be all of the above or none of the above, so make sure you turn the shuffle within questions feature off. Under question behavior, you can leave defer feedback alone, and although I clicked show more for the purposes of this video, you don't have to worry about the other settings under question behavior. So the important settings under question behavior are shuffle within questions, no. How questions behave is deferred feedback. If you don't want your students to have access to the question that were delivered for their quiz after they've taken the quiz, for security purposes of ensuring that your question bank is integral and does not leak, make sure you unclick these 3 checkboxes so that students will only receive the points scored on a quiz and the percentage score. This is very important. If you hide quizzes, you will be able to see the quiz grades of the students, but the students will not be able to see them in their gradebook. So please just unclick these 3 boxes, and the student will only be able to access through the gradebook their points and their overall quiz grade. They will not be able to access the questions again. As soon as they submit the quiz, they can no longer access the questions, which mimics a normal paper and pencil testing situation. Under appearance, if you want to make sure for additional security that you see the person's picture while they're taking the quiz, you can add that. Their picture has to be uploaded to Moodle for that to work. We do want for their quiz grades, decimal places 2 is default as a best practice. And you can basically just leave everything else under appearance under default. So once you've set the large image, small image, or no image setting, you can leave the rest under default settings. Extra restrictions on attempt is very important depending on which browser you're using. Browsers sometimes autofill require passwords or require network address fields. Please make sure that you leave this empty, otherwise your students will not be able to access the quiz during quiz time. And Chrome browser is famous for autofilling this, but all you need to do is make sure it's empty before you save the settings. The other important aspect to extra restrictions on attempt is you can turn on browser security, so they will not be able to browse away from the window. It removes browser functionality from the testing window, so make sure you turn browser security on. That also discourages academic dishonesty. The overall feedback windows are, in case you wanted to let people know if there was, for example, a grade boundary you wanted to set and give a specific feedback for it. This is how you would use it. For example, you want to write fantastic in for anybody who scores 100%. Or you want to set a grade boundary that 70% is passing. If you're using a curve, you wouldn't know this ahead of time until you've curved the grades. But if you're using straight percentage, you could add feedback here. Congratulations, you passed. This works much like a word processor. It even has spell check. Now you've set specific feedback for grade boundaries. The quiz will tell the student fantastic if they score a 100, and congratulations, you passed if they score between 70% and 100. You can continue to add feedback fields as you like, or you don't have to add any. Common module settings do not need to be set for normal testing situations. And activity completion is usually very helpful for the instructor to run activity completion reports. Under completion tracking, you can show that this activity has been met when the student has received a grade for this activity. So in other words, they need to take a test, need to take this test, and they will receive a grade, and then automatically Moodle will check this off as an activity they've completed. Once you've set all these settings, you can click on Save and Return to Course. Let's remember that all of this that this has accomplished is that it's created an exam container that doesn't have any questions to it, but it has all the settings for that exam situation. To add questions, you can now click on the exam you just created. Notice it tells us that this quiz will be open from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. The time limit on the quiz is 1 hour. It's reminding us there are no questions added yet, so we can click on Edit Quiz to add questions. Make sure your maximum grade on the quiz is 100. In Europe, they grade on base 10. In the United States, our students are used to grade base 100. So do that right away before you add any questions to the quiz and click Save. Also, make sure you shuffle questions for discouragement of academic dishonesty and for protecting your exam situation. So make sure the Shuffle option is clicked and save again as a best practice. When you're ready to add questions, you're likely to have had a question bank added for you. Contact your support person for Moodle if you don't have your exam question banks added. But you will choose questions from a question bank. And let's say you were doing an exam on chapters 4 of your book. The question bank had previously been added. I selected the question bank, and I can select some or all of the questions. If I want to preview a question before I select it, I can click on the magnifying glass, and Moodle will deliver a preview of the question so that I can decide whether or not I want to choose that question. I can actually ask Moodle to fill in the correct response to make sure that question was done correctly. Once I know that this is what I want to see, it's a question about a benign acquired disease of unknown origin, I know that I can make sure that it is selected. So here's a benign acquired disease of unknown origin that I was previewing, and it has been selected. It will be part of my exam. You can unselect all questions. You can select questions one at a time. And that's how to build your quiz. Once you have completed selecting questions for your quiz, you can scroll all the way down and click on Add Selected Questions to the quiz. If you see page 1 and more than one question under page 1, make sure to repaginate so that you only get one question per page. And repaginating is that easy. We didn't have to do it in this case, but I went through the motions for the purposes of this training video. Now I have a quiz with 127 questions because I went and selected all of them. The maximum grade is 100%, and I save my quiz. When I go back using my navigation bar, when I go back to my course, I should be able to see my quiz, and I can actually preview it by taking it. It says attempts allowed, 1. The quiz won't be available to this time. It has a time limit. It's telling the student the quiz is not currently available so that you can go back to the course. So notice it's completely secure. Students are not able to go into the quiz because these parameters have not been met. This concludes this training video on how to create a quiz and set the appropriate settings to make your question banks secure and to make sure that the exam or quiz is flowing to the right area of your gradebook. If you don't know how to set up your gradebook, there will be a separate video on it. But here's a quick example of a quiz. As you can see, there's exams, there's quizzes, research assignments, final exam, and homework all flowing directly to the gradebook that will give you a course total grade. And each of these areas has its own weight. This concludes this video. The gradebook setup video will follow. I hope that you can watch this video and practice in this Moodle training playground to create a quiz yourself. Signing off.